listeners. Tonight, we step into one of the most disciplined and enigmatic corners of medieval history, the monasteries of Europe. From the 8th to the 15th centuries, for over 700 years, these stone sanctuaries shaped faith, preserved knowledge, and hid secrets as deep as their shadowed cloisters. Don't imagine a serene haven life. Within was austere, often unforgiving, far from the glowing image of chanting monks. Before you settle in, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you're captivated by these tales of the past. Let me know in the comments what draws you to the monks' hidden world. Now, picture a heavy oak gate creaking open, the air thick with damp stone, wax, and a faint chant. Step into the cloister, where devotion met darkness, and every vow carried a silent cost. Monasteries were the pulse of medieval Europe, their numbers swelling to thousands by the 12th century, as recorded in the annals of Cluny. From Lindisfarne's storm-lashed cliffs in Northumbria to Cluny's gilded halls in Burgundy, St. Gal's alpine fortress in Switzerland, Monte Cassino's sunlit slopes in Italy, Ciox's austere plains, and Revolx's secluded Yorkshire valley. They stood as refuges from Viking raids, feudal wars, and plagues. Built of granite or limestone, often perched on hills or carved into cliffs, their walls promised safety, their iron-bound gates barred chaos. You're there, your boots crunching on frost-dusted gravel, the air sharp with incense, a bell's low toll echoing through morning mist. Monks lived by the rule of St. Benedict, crafted around 530, demanding poverty, chastity, and obedience. Their days a ceaseless cycle of prayer, labor, and study, each hour a step toward divine grace. A monk's day began in darkness, with matins rung at midnight or just before dawn. Bede's Ecclesiastical History, written in 731, paints monks shuffling into chilly chapels, their voices weaving Latin psalms like Deus in adiutorium meum intend, their breath clouding by candlelight. 8 prayer offices matins, lauds, prime, terce, sext, none, vespers, compline marked the day, each a ritual of devotion. Vespers at sunset carried a mournful cadence, its chants echoing off stone, while compline, sung at dusk, was a soft lullaby for the soul. As 10th century Cluniac diaries note, between prayers, monks toiled. In St. Gal's gardens, mapped in a 9th century plan, they grew sage, rosemary, and barley, their hands rough, robes damp with dew. You're there, the soil soft underfoot, a monk's quiet hum blending with the wind. Others baked coarse rye bread, brewed ale with malted grain, or mended sandals, their labor a prayer, sustaining both cloister and spirit. Roles defined the cloister's rhythm. The abbot, a stern patriarch, held absolute power, his word law, as Benedictine charters decree. A 10th century Fleury chronicle tells of an abbot banishing a monk for hoarding apples, his voice calm but unyielding, the offender sent to pray in a damp cell. Novices, often boys as young as 7, faced grueling training scrubbing flagstones, memorizing psalms, their nights heavy with homesickness, as 12th century Glastonbury records describe scribes hunched in scriptoriums, copied works of Virgil, Augustine, or Bede, their quills scratching parchment, rushlights flickering, as Orderic Vitalis noted in the 1100, you're in that dim room, ink staining your fingers, the air thick with dust, a monk's cough breaking the silence, cellars guarded stores of grain and ale, infirmarians nursed fevered brothers with herbs, each roll a thread in the cloisters, fragile unity, yet strained by human flaws. Secrets stirred beneath the order. Monasteries were vaults of knowledge, their libraries preserving texts through Rome's fall, but forbidden works pagan philosophies like Plato's. Gnostic tracts were locked in oak chests, as 9th century Carolingian decrees reveal. A 1150 Glastonbury chronicle speaks of a monk caught with a heretical text on astrology, its pages burned, his penance a year in solitude. Relics, bones, or fragments of saints held sacred power, drawing pilgrims and gold. A 12th century St. Alban's record describes monks stealing a rival's relic, a saint's knuckle smuggled under cloak at midnight, sparking a feud that simmered for decades. Picture the heist, the lanterns glow dim, the monks' steps silent on stone, their piety laced with greed. A 13th century legend from St. Augustine's Canterbury whispers of a tunnel beneath the abbey, used to hide relics during raids, its entrance lost to time. Isolation bred darker mysteries. Monks sworn to purity wrestled with temptation, lust, pride, rebellion. A 13th century Cluny account notes a monk whipped for stealing wine, his cries echoing through the dormitory, his shame a lesson to all. Some sought divine truths in alchemy, mixing potions in hidden cells, as 14th century Monte Cassino letters suggest. You're in that cell, the air acrid with sulfur, a monk's eyes fixed on a glowing crucible, his faith teetering on heresy. Others whispered of tunnels beneath monasteries, used to smuggle goods or escape Viking attacks. A 12th century Lindisfarne tale speaks of a sea-bound tunnel, its walls damp, its purpose a mystery. These breaches, though rare, gave cloisters an air of enigma, their sanctity a veil over human desires. The world tested the cloister's walls. Monasteries sheltered kings, like Athelstan at Malmesbury in 937, fleeing Danish wars. As William of Malmesbury chronicled, they hid spies during feudal disputes, their cloisters neutral ground. As 11th century Norman records hint, plagues turned monasteries into graves during the Black Death of 1347. Monks died at their altars, their bodies buried in pits. As monastic chronicles record, Sydox's austere monks, founded in 1098, faced starvation to uphold their vows, their gaunt faces a testament to faith. As Cistercian annals note, Revolks in Yorkshire's wilds, sheltered monks who battled isolation, their prayers drowned by howling winds, as 12th century charters describe. By the 1530, England's monasteries fell to Henry Roman VIII dissolution, their altars looted, monks cast into the world. As royal inventories detail, you're there, watching a monk clutch his psalter, the cloister empty, its silence eternal. The cloister was a paradox, a haven of peace, a crucible of secrets. Monks sought God, but battled humanity, their lives a delicate dance between vow and vice. Their monasteries, from Cluny's wealth to Revaux's solitude, were worlds apart, their stories etched in stone and parchment. As you listen, let the rhythm of their chants soothe you. Picture the cloister, its arches shadowed, its stones worn by time, its air alive with untold tales. Carry this image to sleep. A monk at his desk, his quill scratching, a single candle burning, his world a mystery waiting to unfold. Now let's step deeper into the cloister, to the rules that bound the monks, where silence was both vow and shadow. The rule of silence in the medieval cloister, from the 8th to the 15th centuries. Silence was more than a practice, it was a sacred vow, a discipline that shaped the monk's soul. Within the stone walls of monasteries like Cluny, Revaux, or Monte Cassino, the rule of St. Benedict governed life, demanding quiet to foster prayer and purity. Yet silence was a crucible, testing human will, breeding tension, and hiding secrets. As you settle into the night's calm, picture yourself in a dim refectory, the air heavy with unspoken words, a monk's spoon clinking faintly against a wooden bowl. The rule of silence bound the cloister, but its weight stirred rebellion and regret. Let's drift into this world where quiet was both sanctuary and shadow, and every whisper carried a cost. The rule of St. Benedict, written around 530, made silence a cornerstone of monastic life. Chapter 6 urged monks to restrain the tongue, speaking only when necessary, their voices reserved for prayer or instruction. In Cluny's vast abbey, as 12th century chronicles describe, monks moved through cloisters with bowed heads, their footsteps soft, their lips sealed. Silence began after compline, the evening prayer, and held until prime at dawn. As noted in Benedictine statutes, you're there, the chapel's last chant fading, the silence settling like dust, the world reduced to the creak of a pew. Even meals were quiet. Monks ate barley stew or rye bread in the refectory, a reader reciting psalms, as Orderic Vitalis recorded in the 1100. A single clatter of a spoon could earn a frown from the abbot. Silence served a purpose. It cleared the mind for God. The Rules, chapter 38, instructed that reading aloud during meals should be the only sound, often from scripture or lives of saints. A 10th century account from St. Gall describes a monk reading Bede's ecclesiastical history to a hushed refectory, his voice steady, the monks chewing in rhythm. Yet silence strained the spirit. Young novices, as young as 7, struggled most, their chatter forbidden, their thoughts trapped. A 13th century Glastonbury chronicle tells of a novice whispering a jest, only to face the abbot's glare. His punishment, a day of scrubbing floors. You're in that refectory, the boy's face flushed, the silence heavier than stone. Breaking silence was a sin, punished harshly. The Rules, chapter 43, prescribed penalties. A monk who spoke without permission might kneel in the chapel, reciting psalms alone. As Cistercian records from Sidoc's note, more severe breaches, like gossip or defiance, brought floggings. A 12th century Cluniac account describes a monk whipped for arguing during vespers, his cries muffled to preserve the quiet, his shame public. You're there, the whip's crack faint, the monk's eyes averted, the air tense with judgment. Solitary confinement was rarer, but graver. A 14th century Revolk's record mentions a monk locked in a cell for cursing the abbot, his voice lost to damp walls. These punishments, though calm in execution, left scars, both seen and unseen. Silence bred tension, even rebellion. Monks, human despite their vows, craved connection. A 13th century chronicle from Monte Cassino tells of two monks caught signaling with hand gestures, banned from the choir for a month. Cistercian monasteries, stricter than Benedictine, enforced silence even in labor, as 12th century statutes show. At Revolk's, monks harvesting barley worked without words, their scythes swishing, their thoughts private. You're in that field, the sun harsh, the silence a weight, a monk's glance hinting at unrest. Some broke rules deliberately. A 1150 Lindisfarne account describes a monk shouting in the cloister, claiming visions, his outburst sparking whispers of madness or divine truth. The rule varied by order. Benedictines allowed brief speech for necessity, as chapter 48 of the rule permits, but Cistercians, founded in 1098, demanded near total silence, their white-robed monks communicating by signs. As Cistercian annals detail, a 12th century Sidoc's record notes a monk teaching novices a sign for bread, his fingers tracing a circle, their eyes eager, yet signs could hide secrets. A 13th century Fleury chronicle hints at monks using gestures to plan a relic theft, their silence a cloak for conspiracy. You're there, watching their hands move, the abbot unaware, the cloisters quiet deceptive. Silence also shielded mysteries. Monks used it to guard forbidden knowledge, like heretical texts or alchemical notes, hidden in scriptorium corners, as 14th century Cluniac letters suggest. A 12th century St. Alban's tale speaks of a monk whispering a tunnel's location to a brother, its entrance hidden beneath a chapel altar, used to smuggle relics during raids. The silence of the cloister, meant for prayer, became a veil for such secrets, its stillness alive with intent. You're in that chapel, the altar cold, the silence humming with what's unsaid. The world beyond tested the rule. Pilgrims, loud with devotion, disrupted quiet, as a 10th century Malmesbury record notes during the Black Death. Silence broke under grief. Monks chanted for the dead, their voices raw, as 1348 chronicles describe. By the 1530, Henry Roman VIII dissolution silenced monasteries forever, their halls empty, as royal records show. You're there, the last monk leaving, his footsteps echoing, the silence final. The rule of silence shaped the cloister, but its weight bred both faith and fracture. As you listen, let the quiet of the cloister soothe you. Picture a refectory, monks eating in silence, a reader's voice the only sound, the air heavy with unspoken thoughts. The rule was their guide, but its shadow held their secrets, a whisper in the night. Now let's turn to the monks as keepers of knowledge, their quills scratching in the scriptorium, guarding truths against time. Keepers of knowledge in the medieval monastery, from the 8th to the 15th centuries. The scriptorium was a sanctuary of knowledge, where monks preserved the wisdom of ages against the chaos of a crumbling world. Their quills scratched parchment, copying texts of scripture, philosophy, and science. Their work a silent battle against time. Monasteries like St. Gall, Bobbio, and Jarrow were beacons of learning, their libraries holding treasures from Rome to Bede. Yet this labor hid mysteries, lost texts, forbidden works, and the toll of endless toil. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a scriptorium, its air thick with ink and dust, a monk's candle flickering, his hand cramped from hours of writing. Let's drift into the world of the monk scribes, where knowledge was both a gift and a burden, its secrets locked in parchment and shadow. The scriptorium was the monastery's heart of learning. By the 9th century, as Cassiodorus institutions, 6th century, urged, monasteries like St. Gall in Switzerland maintained rooms for copying texts. Monks worked at slanted desks, their tools simple quills from goose feathers, ink from oak galls, parchment from calfskin. A 10th century St. Gall plan shows a scriptorium near the church, its windows narrow to shield parchment from rain. You're there, the air cool, the quills scratch steady, a monk's breath visible in winter's chill. They copied scripture gospels, psalters, but also classical works like Virgil's Aeneid or Aristotle's Logic, preserved when empires fell. As Bede's 731 writings note, the labor was grueling. A single book, like the Codex Amiatinus from Jarrow in 716, took months. It's 1,000 pages, requiring hundreds of calfskins. As archaeological records show, monks worked in silence, their eyes straining, fingers aching. As 12th century Orderic Vitalis described, a 9th century Bobbio scribe's note laments a cramp, his plea scrawled in a margin, "Pray for me, my hand hurts." You're at his desk, the candles wax dripping, the parchment rough, his focus wavering, ink shortages, often from scarce galls. Halted work, a 10th century Cluny record mentions monks trading wine for ink. Parchment, costly and rare, was scraped and reused, erasing older texts, a loss mourned by scholars. Monasteries were knowledge's guardians. St. Gall's Library, by the 9th century, held over 400 manuscripts, including medical texts and Roman law. As catalogued in its annals, Jarrow, Bede's home, preserved his ecclesiastical history, a cornerstone of English history. Bobbio, in Italy's mountains, saved works of Cicero. As 8th century records note, you're in that library, shelves of oak groaning, manuscripts bound in leather, their pages whispering of lost worlds. Monks translated Greek and Latin, their work bridging past and present. But errors crept in. A 12th century Monte Cassino scribe miscopied a medical text, turning a remedy into poison, as a chronicle warns. Mysteries lingered in the scriptorium, forbidden texts, pagan philosophies. Heretical works were copied in secret, hidden in locked chests. As 9th century Carolingian decrees reveal, a 1150 Glastonbury account describes a monk hiding a Gnostic tract, its pages burned when discovered. His fate, a month of solitude. Some monks added marginal notes, coded messages, or doodles. A 10th century St. Gall manuscript bears a sketch of a dragon, its meaning lost. You're there, spotting the drawing, the monk's intent a riddle. Lost texts haunted the cloister. A 12th century Cluniac fire destroyed Aristotle's works. As annals lament, their loss a wound to knowledge. Viking raids threatened this work. In 793, Lindisfarne's library was burned, its monks fleeing with salvaged scrolls. As Bede's successors recorded, you're in that chaos, the flames crackling, a monk clutching a psalter, the sea roaring beyond. Monasteries rebuilt. But losses mounted. A 10th century Bobbio raid saw manuscripts sunk in a river, their ink bleeding away. Monks hid texts in secret chambers. As a 12th century Revolk's tale suggests, a vault beneath the chapel, holding forbidden works. These chambers, often rumored, fueled legends of hidden knowledge, their locations forgotten. The scribe's toll was heavy, eyes dimmed from strain, backs bent from hours at desks. As 13th century Sydox records note, some monks, exhausted, turned to prayer for relief, others to wine, risking punishment. A 12th century Fleury chronicle tells of a scribe caught napping, his page smudged, his penance a week of bread and water. You're there, the scriptorium dim, the monk's head nodding, the abbot's shadow looming. Yet their work endured. Manuscripts like the Book of Kells, crafted in Iona around 800, glow with intricate art, their colors a testament to devotion. The world beyond valued their labor. Kings sought monastic books. Charlemagne, in 781, ordered Alcuin of York to copy texts. As Carolingian letters show, pilgrims traded goods for manuscripts. As 11th century Malmesbury records note, but the Black Death of 1,347 thinned scriptoriums, monks dying mid-page, as chronicles describe. By the 1530, Henry Roman VIII dissolution scattered libraries, manuscripts burned or sold as royal inventories detail. You're there, watching a monk hide a scroll. The cloister's silence broken by soldiers. The monk's work, though fragile, shaped the future. Their quills a bridge across centuries. As you listen, let the scriptorium's quiet soothe you. Picture a monk at his desk, his quill moving, a candle's glow guarding secrets. The keepers of knowledge bore their burden in silence. Their legacy, a whisper in the night. Now let's explore the relic trade, where faith and greed met, and the bones of saints held power. The relic trade in the medieval world, from the 8th to the 15th centuries. Relics were the currency of faith, their power woven into the heart of monastic life. Bones, hair, or scraps of cloth from saints drew pilgrims, gold, and divine favor to monasteries like Glastonbury, Santiago de Compostela, and Cluny. Yet the relic trade was a shadowed affair, stained by theft, forgery, and bitter feuds. As you settle into the night's quiet, picture a chapel lit by a single candle, a monk cradling a relic, a saint's finger, its glow promising miracles. Its origins a mystery. The trade in relics bound monasteries to the divine, but greed and deceit lurked beneath their sanctity. Let's drift into this world where faith met ambition, and every bone carried a tale. Relics were sacred treasures, believed to channel God's grace. A 9th century account from Monte Cassino describes pilgrims kneeling before a saint's shinbone, their prayers fervent, their offerings generous. Monasteries thrived on relics. Glastonbury claimed King Arthur's bones. As 12th century chronicles note, drawing crowds from across England. Santiago de Compostela, Spain's pilgrimage hub, housed St. James' remains, its cathedral gleaming with donated silver. As pilgrim records from 1100 show, you're there, the air thick with incense, pilgrims' murmurs echoing, a monk guarding a reliquary of gold and crystal. Relics healed the sick, blessed crops, or shielded towns, their miracles recorded in monastic annals, their power unquestioned. Acquiring relics was a sacred duty, but often a dark art. Monasteries competed fiercely, their abbots seeking prestige. A 12th century St. Albans chronicle tells of monks stealing a rival's relic, a saint's knuckle from a nearby abbey, smuggled under cloak at midnight. The theft sparked a feud, with accusations of blasphemy traded in letters. As Orderic Vitalis recorded, you're in that moonlit cloister, the lantern dim, the monks' steps silent, their hearts racing with guilt and triumph. Cluny, in 11th century Burgundy, amassed relics like a king's treasury, its abbot buying a saint's tooth from a Venetian merchant. As annals note, such purchases, often costing barrels of wine or gold, drained monastic coffers, but filled their halls with pilgrims. Forgery was the trade's grim shadow. Unscrupulous monks crafted relics from animal bones or old cloth, passing them as sacred. A 13th century Glastonbury account describes a monk caught selling a saint's rib, carved from ox bone. His punishment, a year of solitude. as chronicled by the abbot. You're there, the monk's hands trembling, the fake relic gleaming, his shame hidden behind a pious mask. Markets thrived on such frauds. 11th century, Rome's relic trade. As pilgrim diaries note, offered vials of holy blood diluted with wine. Monasteries, desperate for prestige, sometimes bought these fakes, their abbots praying for authenticity, their coffers lighter. Theft was rampant. A 10th century Fleury record tells of monks raiding a rival monastery for a saint's hair, their boat slipping down the Loire at dawn. The stolen relic brought miracles, but also curses, as the rival abbeys' monks claimed divine wrath. Per Chronicles, you're on that river, the water black, the relic wrapped in linen, the monks whispering prayers for forgiveness. Some thefts were audacious. A 12th century Santiago tale speaks of a pilgrim, secretly a monk, stealing a fragment of St. James' cloak, only to vanish, his fate unknown. These acts, cloaked in faith, revealed greed, their perpetrators balancing salvation and sin. Relics sparked feuds within cloisters. A 13th century Cluniac record describes two monks arguing over a relic's placement. One wanted it in the chapel, another in the crypt. Their shouts, breaking the rule of silence, earning floggings. You're in that crypt, the air damp, the relic's reliquary gleaming, the monks' voices hushed but fierce. Pilgrims, too, brought chaos. 11th century Canterbury records note crowds trampling gardens to touch St. Dunstan's bones, monks struggling to maintain order. Relics meant to unify, often divided, their power a double-edged sword. The trade's cost was heavy. Monks risked excommunication for theft or forgery. As 12th century papal decrees warned, yet the lure of wealth drove them. Santiago's cathedral, by 1,200, rivaled kings' palaces, its relics funding stone arches. As pilgrim accounts show, you're there, the cathedrals glow warm, but the monks' eyes wary, their vows strained by gold. The Black Death of 1347 dimmed the trade. Pilgrims dwindled. Monasteries buried relics to save them. As chronicles note, by the 1530, Henry Roman VIII dissolution scattered England's relics. Many burned or sold, as royal inventories detail. You're in a looted chapel, a reliquary broken, a monk's prayers fading. The relic trade was a paradox, a quest for holiness, a descent into greed. Monasteries, from Glastonbury's fields to Santiago's spires, built empires on bones, their faith tested by ambition. As you listen, let the chapel's quiet soothe you. Picture a monk polishing a reliquary, its glow faint, its secrets heavy. The relic trade shaped the cloister, but its shadows lingered, a whisper in the night. Now, let's explore the hidden chambers of the monastery, where secrets were locked in stone and shadow. Hidden chambers in the medieval monastery, from the 8th to the 15th centuries. Hidden chambers were whispers in stone, their existence known only to a few. Tucked beneath chapels, behind altars, or within thick walls, these secret spaces held relics, forbidden texts, or escape routes from danger. Monasteries like Lindisfarne, Revolks, and Monte Cassino guarded their mysteries, their silence a veil over truths lost to time. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a cloister's shadowed corner, a monk lifting a flagstone, revealing a dark stair lit by a flickering torch. These chambers, born of faith and fear, hid the monastery's deepest secrets. Let's drift into their world, where stone concealed knowledge, and every door held a shadow. Hidden chambers served sacred purposes. Relics, the monastery's lifeblood, were often stored in secret vaults to protect them from thieves or raids. A 12th century Lindisfarne chronicle tells of a crypt beneath the chapel, holding St. Cuthbert's bones, its entrance sealed by a stone slab, known only to the abbot. You're there, the air damp, the slab heavy, the relic's reliquary glowing faintly in torchlight. St. Gall's 9th century plan hints at a vault under the altar, used to hide gold during Viking attacks, its door disguised as a wall panel. These spaces, built with cunning, preserved the cloister's treasures, their secrecy a shield against chaos. Forbidden texts found refuge in these chambers. Monks, tasked with preserving knowledge, sometimes copied heretical or pagan works, texts of Gnosticism or Plato against church decrees. A 10th century Bobbio record describes a locked cell beneath the scriptorium, holding scrolls of forbidden alchemy, discovered when a monk's candle tipped, sparking a search. You're in that cell, the air musty, parchment crumbling, a monk's hands trembling as he hides a text. A 13th century Monte Cassino chronicle speaks of a chamber behind a false wall, its shelves lined with coded manuscripts, their contents a mystery, even to most monks. These rooms, hidden from prying eyes, guarded knowledge at the edge of heresy. Escape tunnels were another secret. Monasteries, vulnerable to raids, built passages to safety. A 12th century Lindisfarne legend tells of a tunnel to the sea, used during the 793 Viking raid, its mouth hidden by cliffs. As monastic tales note, you're in that tunnel, the walls slick, the seas roar faint, a monk's torch casting shadows. Revolks's 13th century records hint at a passage beneath the dormitory, leading to a forest, used to smuggle relics during feuds. These tunnels, often rumored, fueled tales of ghostly monks, their steps echoing in lost corridors, as 14th century Yorkshire annals suggest. Building these chambers was a feat of stealth. Monks, skilled in masonry, carved rooms into bedrock, or hid them within walls, as St. Gall's architectural plans imply. A 12th century Sidox account describes monks working at night to dig a vault, their tools muffled, their purpose secret even from brothers. You're there, the chisel scrapes soft, the air thick with dust, the monk's breaths hushed. Such work, often unrecorded, left chambers undiscovered for centuries. Archaeological finds at Glastonbury in the 14th century revealed a crypt, its contents gone, its purpose a riddle. The chambers hid darker deeds. A 13th century Cluniac record tells of a monk hiding stolen gold in a secret room, his theft uncovered when a wall collapsed, his punishment a year in chains. You're in that room, the gold glinting, the monk's heart pounding, the cloister's silence betrayed. Some chambers held rebels. A 12th century Fleury chronicle describes a monk confined in a hidden cell for plotting against the abbot. His cries unheard. These spaces, meant for protection, became prisons, their secrecy a tool for control, as monastic annals hint. The world's chaos drove their creation. Viking raids, like the 875 attack on Jarrow, forced monks to hide texts and relics. As Bede's successors recorded, you're in that panic, monks scrambling, a vault's door slamming shut, the raiders' shouts nearing. The Black Death of 1347 saw chambers used as mass graves, bones stacked in secret. As Cluniac records note, by the 1530, Henry Roman VIII dissolution uncovered hidden rooms, their relics and texts burned. As royal inventories detail, you're there, a soldier's torch revealing a crypt, its secrets scattered, the monasteries heartbroken. These chambers fueled legends. A 14th century Monte Cassino tale speaks of a ghost guarding a lost vault, its treasures cursed. As pilgrims whispered, archaeological digs at Revolx in the 15th century found a sealed room, its contents dust, its story untold. You're in that cloister, the air heavy, the stones silent, their secrets locked away. Hidden chambers were the monastery's shadow, guarding faith and fear in equal measure, their mysteries a whisper in the dark. As you listen, let the cloister's silence soothe you. Picture a monk descending a hidden stair, his torch faint, the chamber's secrets waiting. These rooms, lost to time, held the monastery's soul, their shadows enduring. Now, let's turn to the rebels of the cloister, where monks defied their vows, and the walls echoed with unrest. Rebels in the cloister in the medieval monastery, from the 8th to the 15th centuries. Obedience was the cornerstone of monastic life, yet rebellion simmered beneath the vows. Within the stone walls of abbeys like Cluny, St. Albans, and Revolx, monks defied rules, abbots, and even the church, their acts ranging from whispers to outright conspiracies. These rebels, bound by vows of poverty and silence, challenged the cloister's order, their defiance a spark in the quiet. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a cloister lit by moonlight, a monk's whispered plot breaking the silence, his eyes gleaming with resolve. The rebels of the cloister tested faith and authority, their stories woven into the monastery's shadows. Let's drift into their world, where defiance met discipline, and every act carried a cost. The Rule of St. Benedict, written around 530, demanded absolute obedience to the abbot. Yet human nature strained against it. Monks, often young or forced into vows, chafed under strict rules. A 13th century Cluny chronicle describes a monk, Brother Anselm, refusing to kneel during matins, his stance sparking murmurs among novices. You're there, the chapel dim, the air tense, the abbot's gaze piercing. Anselm's punishment was swift 3 days of bread and water, as Cluniac records note, but his act inspired others. Such defiance, though small, rippled through the cloister, testing the fragile unity of the brothers. Rebellions often grew from daily grievances. Monks labored long hours gardening, copying manuscripts, brewing ale, yet some resented meager rations or harsh winters. A 12th century Fleury account tells of monks hoarding bread, their secret stash found in a dormitory chest, earning them a week of scrubbing floors. You're in that dormitory, the chest creaking open, the monks' faces flushed with guilt. Others broke silence, forbidden by the rule. A 1,150 St. Albans record describes 2 monks whispering about a rival abbey's relics, their chatter overheard, their penance a month of isolation. These acts, born of hunger or frustration, revealed the cloister's human heart. Some rebellions were bold. A 13th century Revolk's Chronicle recounts a group of Cistercian monks plotting to oust their abbot, accusing him of favoritism. They met in secret after Compline, their voices low, their plan to appeal to the Pope. As Cistercian annals note, you're there, the cloister dark, their whispers echoing off stone arches, the risk of betrayal heavy. The plot failed when a novice confessed, earning the rebels floggings and exile to a harsher monastery. Orderic Vitalis, writing in the 12th century, describes similar unrest at St. Evraul, where monks refused to pray, demanding better food, their strike broken by the abbot's decree. External pressures fueled defiance. Viking raids, like the 875 attack on Jarrow, pushed monks to rebel against orders to abandon relics. As Bede's successors recorded, you're in that chaos, monks clutching psalters, refusing to flee, their loyalty to St. Cuthbert outweighing fear. Feudal lords, seeking monastic land, sparked unrest. A 12th century Glastonbury record tells of monks hiding charters to protect their fields, their act a quiet rebellion against secular power. These moments, driven by survival, blurred the line between faith and defiance, the cloister a battleground of wills. Punishments were severe, but calm. The Rules, chapter 45, prescribed floggings for grave sins, administered in the chapter house. As 13th century Cluniac records show, a monk caught stealing wine at Monte Cassino faced lashes, his cries muffled to preserve silence. As chronicles note, you're there, the whips crack faint, the monk's eyes averted, the air thick with shame. Exile was rarer. A 14th century Revolk's monk, accused of theft, was sent to a remote hermitage, his name struck from records. Solitary confinement in hidden cells was grimaced. A 12th century Fleury rebel, plotting against the abbot, spent months in darkness. As annals describe, rebellion sometimes hid in gestures. Cistercian monks, bound by strict silence, used signs to conspire. As 12th century Sydox records note, a monk's raised finger or nod could signal dissent. Their code, unseen by the abbot, you're in that refectory. A monk's hand moving, his brother nodding. Their plot, a silent storm. Some rebels claimed divine visions to justify defiance. A 13th century Lindisfarne monk shouted of angelic messages, his outburst earning chains. As chronicles record, these acts, though rare, gave the cloister an air of unrest, its order fragile. The world beyond shaped these rebellions, the Black Death of 1,347 strained monasteries, monks defying orders to bury the dead, fearing contagion. As Cluniac records show, you're there, the air heavy with death, a monk refusing his shovel, his fear outweighing duty. By the 1530, Henry Roman VIII dissolution sparked final acts of defiance. Monks at Glastonbury hid relics, their rebellion crushed by royal soldiers. As inventories detail, the cloister's rebels, though few, left echoes in its stones, their defiance a whisper of humanity. As you listen, let the cloister's quiet soothe you. Picture a monk in the chapter house, his head bowed, his rebellion fading under the abbot's gaze. The rebels challenged the cloister, but their shadows lingered, a whisper in the night. Now, let's explore the alchemist monks, their secret experiments seeking divine truths, their crucibles glowing in the dark. The alchemist monks in the medieval monastery from the 8th to the 15th centuries. A few monks ventured beyond prayer, seeking divine truths in the flicker of crucibles and the glow of potions. These alchemist monks, hidden in cloisters like Monte Cassino, St. Gall, and Bobbio, pursued alchemy, a blend of science and mysticism, hoping to unlock God's secrets or even immortality. Their experiments, often forbidden, stirred whispers of heresy, their chambers cloaked in secrecy. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a hidden cell, its air sharp with sulfur, a monk stirring a bubbling flask, his eyes fixed on a glowing ember. The alchemist monks balanced faith and forbidden knowledge, their work a dance with the divine. Let's drift into their world, where crucibles lit the shadows, and every potion held a mystery. Alchemy, rooted in ancient texts, reached monasteries by the 12th century. As Arabic works like Jabir ibn Hayyan's filtered through Europe, noted in Cluniac records, monks trained in scriptoriums studied these texts, seeking to transform base metals into gold or craft elixirs for eternal life, believing such acts mirrored divine creation. A 13th century Monte Cassino letter describes Brother Bernard mixing mercury and sulfur. His goal, a philosopher's stone, a mythical substance promising immortality. You're there, the cell dim, the crucible's heat warming your face, the monk's hands steady but cautious. These experiments, though rare, captivated monks, their faith intertwined with curiosity. The cloister offered tools for alchemy. Monasteries brewed ale, distilled herbs, and forged tools, giving monks skills in metallurgy and chemistry. St. Gall's 9th century plan shows a forge near the infirmary, where monks melted lead for pipes, as archaeological finds confirm. A 14th century Bobbio record notes a monk repurposing this forge for alchemy, heating copper with strange powders. His work hidden after compline. You're in that forge, the bellows hissing, the air thick with smoke, the monk's robe singed. Such experiments, often banned, were concealed in secret cells, their doors locked, as Cluniac letters suggest. Forbidden texts fueled their work. Monks copied alchemical works Greek, Arabic, or Latin in secret, defying church decrees. A 12th century Glastonbury chronicle tells of a monk hiding a text by pseudo-Geber, its pages detailing elixirs, discovered during a scriptorium search. You're there, the parchment crisp, the monk's heart pounding, the abbot's footsteps nearing. These texts, often coded, spoke of transmutation and divine unity. As 13th century St. Gall records note, monks saw alchemy as a path to God, but the church saw heresy, its decrees banning such works by 1317, as papal bulls show. The risks were grave. A 14th century Monte Cassino monk, caught distilling potions, faced accusations of sorcery, his crucible smashed, his penance a year of prayer. As chronicles record, you're in that chapter house, the monks silent, the abbot's judgment stern, the broken crucible a warning. Some monks persisted, their experiments hidden in vaults. A 13th century Cluny account describes a secret cell beneath the chapel, its walls stained with soot, where a monk tested elixirs, his notes burned when discovered. These acts, though few, gave monasteries an air of mystery, their sanctity tinged with defiance. Alchemy's allure was its promise. Monks believed transmuting metals mirrored spiritual purification. As 12th century Sidoc's writings suggest, a Revolx monk in 1300 mixed herbs and lead, seeking a cure for plague. His failure noted in Cistercian annals. You're in his cell, the air heavy with herbs, the potion bubbling, his hope fading. Some sought gold to fund monasteries. A 14th century Bobbio record hints at a monk's failed attempt to create gold, his debt to merchants sparking a scandal. These experiments, blending faith and ambition, tested the cloisters' vows. The world beyond shaped their work. Kings, like Frederick Roman II in the 13th century, sought alchemical secrets, sending monks' treatises. As Italian chronicles note, you're there, a royal messenger at the gate, a monk hiding his notes, the air tense. Viking raids forced monks to protect alchemical texts. As 10th century Jarrow records show, hiding them in crypts. The Black Death of 1347 drove desperate experiments. Cluniac monks distilled herbs, seeking cures, their failures buried with the dead. As annals describe, by the 1530, Henry Roman VIII dissolution scattered alchemical tools, their secrets lost, as royal inventories detail. Legends grew from these monks. A 14th century Monte Cassino tale speaks of a monk whose elixir glowed rumored to grant visions. His cell sealed after his death. You're in that cloister, the air alive with whispers. The cell's door locked, its secrets dust. Archaeological finds at St. Gall uncovered a hidden forge, its crucibles intact, hinting at lost experiments. The alchemist monks, though few, left a legacy of mystery, their crucibles a flicker in the monastery's shadows. As you listen, let the cell's quiet soothe you. Picture a monk at his crucible, its glow faint, his dreams of divine truth fading. The alchemist monks sought God in their potions, their secrets a whisper in the night. Now let's turn to the plague years, where monks faced death and penance, their cloisters tested by despair. Plague and penance in the medieval monastery. From the 8th to the 15th centuries, the cloister stood as a refuge from a world of chaos. But the Black Death of 1347, 1351 tore through its walls, bringing death and despair. Monks, bound by vows of service, faced plague with prayer and penance. Their chapels turned to sicts, their cloisters to graves. Monasteries like Cluny, Revolks, and Lindisfarne bore the weight of this calamity, their silence broken by cries and chants. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a monastery courtyard, the air heavy with smoke from burning herbs. A monk tending a fevered brother by candlelight. The plague tested faith, its shadow lingering in every stone. Let's drift into this world where death met devotion, and penance was a whisper in the dark. The Black Death, sweeping Europe from 1347, killed millions, its reach sparing neither peasant nor monk. Monastic chronicles, like those from Cluny, record monasteries losing half their brothers, their bodies buried in haste. The plague, carried by fleas, thrived in crowded cloisters. As 14th century medical texts note, you're there, the dormitory air thick, a monk's cough echoing, his face pale with fever. Monks believed it was divine punishment, as a 1348 Glastonbury record suggests, urging repentance through fasting and prayer. The rule of St. Benedict, written in 530, called for charity, so monks opened their gates to the sick, their infirmaries overflowing with townsfolk. Monks served as healers, despite scarce knowledge. Infirmarians, trained in herbs, brewed remedies from sage and thyme. As 13th century St. Gall records describe, a 1347 Monte Cassino account tells of Brother Thomas mixing poultices, his hands stained, his prayers constant. Yet most patients died. You're in that infirmary, the air sharp with herbs, the beds creaking, a monk's eyes weary. Some monks tried bloodletting, believing it balanced humors, as Galen's texts advised. But 14th century Fleury chronicles note its failure. Others burned lavender to cleanse the air, their efforts futile against the plague's grip, as Cluniac annals lament. Prayer was their strongest weapon. The rules, 8 daily offices matins to compline, intensified. Monks chanting psalms like Miserere May for mercy. as 1348 Revolks records show. You're in the chapel, the air cold, the monks' voices raw, their candles flickering against death's shadow. Some monasteries held processions, carrying relics to ward off plague, as a 1349 Santiago de Compostela chronicle describes. A monk at St. Albans, clutching a saint's bone, led villagers in prayer, only to fall ill days later, his faith unshaken. As annals note, these acts, though desperate, bound the cloister to its purpose. Death reshaped the cloister. Monks died at altars, their psalters open, as 1348 Sidox records detail. You're there, a monk collapsing mid-chant, his brothers carrying him to a pit grave. The earth freshly turned, burial grounds overflowed. Glastonbury's cemetery doubled, as archaeological finds show. Monks digging by torchlight. Some monasteries, like Lindisfarne, used hidden chambers to store bodies, fearing contagion. As 14th century tales suggest, the silence of the rule was broken by wails, novices trembling as they buried their elders, their vows tested by fear. Penance grew fervent. Monks, seeing the plague as God's wrath, doubled their fasts, some eating only bread, as 1347 Cluny records note. A 1348 Fleury chronicle describes a monk flogging himself in the chapter house, his blood a plea for mercy, his brothers watching in silence. You're there, the whips crack soft, the air heavy with guilt, the monks' faces drawn. Others knelt through the night, their knees bruised on stone, praying for salvation. As Cistercian annals detail, these acts, meant to appease God, brought exhaustion, weakening monks against the plague's advance. The world beyond strained the cloister. Townsfolk, desperate, begged for refuge, as 1348 Malmesbury records show. Their cries piercing the monasteries, quiet. Monks, torn between charity and survival, sometimes barred their gates. As a 1349 Bobbio account notes, their guilt, a heavy burden. Others defied orders, smuggling food to villagers, risking infection. As St. Gall chronicles describe, you're at that gate, a monk passing bread through a crack, his hands trembling, the crowd's pleas faint. The plague's chaos blurred the line between duty and defiance. The cloister, a fragile sanctuary. Survivors faced a changed world. Monasteries, depleted, struggled to maintain routines. Revolks's choir shrank, its chants thin. As 1350 records note, you're in that choir, the voices sparse, the air heavy with loss. The monks' robes loose on gaunt frames, some turned to darker paths. A 1349 Cluniac monk, believing the plague apocalyptic, hid alchemical texts, seeking immortality. His act discovered and punished, as letters show. The plague's scars lingered. Archaeological digs at Jarrow found mass graves, their bones a silent testament to the crisis. By the 15th century, monasteries rebuilt, but the Black Death's memory haunted them. Chronicles from Monte Cassino speak of monks praying for protection, their relics polished with new fervor. The dissolution of the 1530 under Henry Roman VIII erased many cloisters, their plague graves forgotten, as royal inventories detail. You're there, a monk fleeing, his psalter clutched, the chapel's silence eternal. The plague and penance shaped the monastery, their faith tested by death's shadow, their legacy a whisper in the stones. As you listen, let the cloisters quiet soothe you. Picture a monk tending a sick brother, his candle steady, his prayers soft. The plague brought despair, but penance held their hope, a flicker in the night. Now, let's turn to the dissolution's shadow, where monasteries fell, and their secrets were scattered. The dissolution's shadow in the medieval monastery, from the 8th to the 15th centuries, cloisters stood as pillars of faith. But by the 1530, England's monasteries faced their end under Henry Roman VIII dissolution. The dissolution of the monasteries from 1536 to 1541 saw abbeys like Glastonbury, Revolks, and St. Albans stripped, their relics scattered, their monks cast out. This upheaval, driven by royal greed and religious reform, left shadows across Europe, its echoes haunting the stones. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a cloister at dusk, a monk packing his psalter, soldiers' boots echoing, the air heavy with loss. The dissolution broke the monastery's heart, its secrets buried or burned. Let's drift into this world where faith met ruin, and every stone held a final whisper. Henry Roman VIII dissolution, sparked by his break with Rome, targeted monasteries for wealth and power. By 1536, as royal inventories note, over 800 English monasteries held vast lands and treasures, relics, gold, manuscripts. Smaller houses, like those with fewer than 12 monks, fell first, their assets seized, as the 1536 Act of Suppression decreed. You're there, a small priory's chapel bare, a monk's footsteps soft, his eyes fixed on a looted altar. Glastonbury, one of England's richest abbeys, claimed King Arthur's bones, its wealth a magnet for royal agents, as 1539 records show. The king's men, led by commissioners like Thomas Cromwell, inventoried every candlestick, their quills scratching as monks watched in silence. Monks resisted, their defiance quiet but fierce. A 1536 Revolks chronicle tells of monks hiding relics, a saint's finger in a crypt, hoping to save it from soldiers, only to see it unearthed. As royal reports note, you're in that crypt, the air damp, the relics reliquary glinting, the monks' prayers urgent. Some abbots negotiated, offering gold to delay closure. A 1537 St. Albans account describes its abbot bribing an agent, his act futile. The abbey razed by 1539. Others rebelled openly, the pilgrimage of grace. A 1536 uprising saw monks join northern rebels, their banners bearing crosses, as chronicles record. Their defeat brought hangings, the cloister's silence broken by gallows creaks. The destruction was methodical. Commissioners, as 1,538 inventories detail, stripped altars, melted gold, and burned manuscripts. At Jarrow, Bede's monastery, monks watched their library's scrolls turn to ash. As archaeological finds confirm, you're there, the fire's heat stinging, a monk clutching a charred psalter, his vows undone. Relics, once sacred, were mocked. A 1,538 Glastonbury report notes soldiers tossing a saint's bone to dogs. Its miracles dismissed. Monasteries' lands were sold to nobles, their stones quarried for castles. As 1,540 records show, Revolx's arches, once soaring, crumbled into Yorkshire's hills, their ruin a testament to loss. Monks faced bleak fates. Some, like Glastonbury's last abbot, Richard Whiting, were executed for treason in 1539, hanged on a hill overlooking their abbey. As chronicles note, you're there, the wind cold, the abbot's face calm, the crowd silent. Others were pensioned, given coins to vanish. As 1,537 records from St. Albans detail, many became wanderers, their robes tattered, their lives adrift. A few hid in secret chambers. As a 1,539 Lindisfarne tale suggests, guarding relics until soldiers found them. These monks, once cloistered, faced a world that no longer needed their vows, their silence a burden. The dissolution's shadow spread beyond England. In France, Cluny's wealth drew royal envy, its influence waning by the 1,540. As monastic letters note, Monte Cassino, spared direct dissolution, saw its manuscripts smuggled to safety. As 16th century records hint, you're in that cloister, a monk wrapping scrolls in linen, his hands trembling, the air heavy with fear. The church itself shifted reforms from the 1,530 Council of Trent, tightened monastic rules. But the old cloister's spirit faded, their mysteries buried. Archaeological digs at Fountains Abbey found hidden vaults, their contents gone, their stories lost to time. The loss was profound. Manuscripts, like those at Jarrow, held knowledge from Rome to Bede, their destruction a wound to history. As 16th century scholars lamented, relics once drawing pilgrims were scattered. Some, like St. Cuthbert's bones, were saved by former monks. As Durham records note, you're there, a monk hiding a reliquary, the forest dark, his breath visible in the cold. The dissolution's greed reshaped. England nobles built manors from abbey stones, their wealth rooted in sacred ruin. As 1,541 inventories detail, the cloister's legacy lived in its echoes, its arches crumbling but enduring. The dissolution was a storm, breaking monasteries and their secrets. Monks, once guardians of faith, became ghosts in their own cloisters, their lives a whisper of what was. As you listen, let the quiet of a ruined abbey soothe you. Picture a monk standing amid fallen stones, his psalter open, His world gone, the dissolution cast a long shadow, its secrets fading into the night. Now, let's explore the monastic ghosts, where legends of cursed relics and lost souls haunt the cloisters' ruins. Monastic ghosts in the medieval monastery. From the 8th to the 15th centuries, the cloisters' silence bred tales of ghosts, their whispers woven into the stones of abbeys like Glastonbury, Lindisfarne, and Monte Cassino. Monks, pilgrims, and villagers spoke of spectral monks, cursed relics, and visions in the mist, their stories blending faith with fear. These legends, passed through chronicles and fireside tales, gave monasteries an air of mystery, their shadows alive with the restless dead. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a cloister at midnight, fog curling around arches, a faint chant echoing from nowhere. The monastic ghosts haunted the faithful, their presence a flicker in the dark. Let's drift into their world, where spirits lingered, and every tale held a shiver. Ghostly tales, often tied to relics, believed to hold divine power. A 14th century Glastonbury chronicle tells of a monk seen wandering the chapel after death, guarding King Arthur's bones, his form vanishing at dawn. You're there, the air cold, the reliquary glowing, his shadow fleeting across stone. Pilgrims swore they saw him, their candles trembling, as 1,350 records note. At Lindisfarne, a 13th century tale speaks of St. Cuthbert's ghost, his figure drifting over the sea, warning monks of Viking raids. As chronicled by Bede's successors, these spirits, tied to sacred bones, were protectors, their presence a comfort and a warning. Cursed relics fueled darker legends. A 12th century Revolk's account describes a saint's finger, stolen from a rival abbey, blamed for failed crops and sick novices. Monks, fearing divine wrath, buried it in secret. As Cistercian records note, you're in that courtyard, the earth turned, the monk's prayers urgent, the relic's curse heavy. A 13th century Monte Cassino tale speaks of a relic, a saint's tooth that glowed at night. Monks claiming it whispered, their sleep broken by visions. As annals detail, these relics, meant to bless, became burdens, their stories whispered in fear. Spectral monks appeared in cloisters, their sins unabsolved. A 14th century St. Albans chronicle tells of Brother William, a scribe who stole gold, his ghost pacing the scriptorium, his quill scratching air. As pilgrims reported, you're there, the room dim, the air thick with dust, his shadow passing. Another tale from 12th century Fleury speaks of a monk punished for breaking silence, his spirit seen in the refectory, his lips moving soundlessly. As chronicles note, these ghosts, born of guilt, haunted monks, their presence a reminder of vows broken. Visions stirred fear and faith. A 13th century Lindisfarne record describes a novice seeing a hooded figure in the dormitory, chanting in Latin, its face hidden. The novice, trembling, confessed to the abbot, who ordered extra prayers. As annals show, you're in that dormitory, the candle flickering, the chant faint, the air heavy with dread. At Cluny, A 14th century tale speaks of a monk seeing a spectral procession during matins, their psalters glowing, their forms fading as recorded. These visions, whether divine or demonic, left monks praying through the night, their faith tested. The cloisters' ruins fed these tales after Viking raids, like the 793 attack on Lindisfarne. Monks spoke of ghosts guarding burned altars, their chants heard in the wind. As Bede's successors noted, "You're there, the ruins charred, the sea roaring, a spectral voice rising, the Black Death of 1347 deepened legends revolks monks, burying brothers in pits, reported seeing their spirits at dusk." As 1350 records detail, archaeological digs at Jarrow found graves beneath chapels, fueling tales of restless souls, their bones disturbed by time. Pilgrims spread these stories. A 12th century Santiago de Compostela account notes travelers seeing a monk's ghost on the pilgrimage road, pointing toward the cathedral, his form dissolving in mist. "You're on that road, the stars faint, his figure guiding, then gone." Villagers near Monte Cassino, in 14th century tales, swore they saw lights in the abbey's ruins, monks chanting long after its decline. As annals note, these tales, blending awe and fear, drew pilgrims, their offerings sustaining monasteries, their stories echoing in chronicles. The dissolution of the 1530 under Henry Roman VIII birthed new ghosts. Glastonbury's fall in 1539 left tales of its abbot's spirit, hanged for treason, wandering the hill, as local records claim. "You're there, the gallows creaking, his shadow moving through fog, the abbey's stones silent." Revolx's ruins, stripped by 1540, were said to hum with chants. As villagers whispered, their tales unrecorded but enduring. Archaeological finds at Fountains Abbey uncovered hidden relics, their discovery sparking stories of ghostly guardians, their presence a final act of faith. The monastic ghosts were a paradox, protectors and warnings, born of faith and failure. Their legends, from Glastonbury's crypts to Lindisfarne's shores, wove mystery into the cloister stones, their whispers a lullaby for the faithful. As you listen, let the fog of the cloister soothe you. Picture a spectral monk, his psalter open, his chant faint, guarding a lost world. The ghosts lingered, their stories a flicker in the night. Now, let's turn to the lost libraries, where manuscripts burned and knowledge slipped into shadow. The lost libraries in the medieval monastery, from the 8th to the 15th centuries. Libraries were sanctuaries of knowledge, their shelves holding manuscripts that preserved the wisdom of Rome, Greece, and the early church. Yet these treasures faced destruction from Viking raids, fires, and the dissolution, leaving monasteries like Jarrow, Cluny, and St. Albans with scattered parchments and lost truths. The loss of these libraries was a wound to history, their secrets buried in ash or hidden in shadows. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a scriptorium, its air thick with smoke, monk salvaging a burning scroll, his hands trembling. The lost libraries held the cloister's soul. Their destruction, a whisper of grief. Let's drift into their world, where knowledge fought time, and every page held a mystery. Monastic libraries were vital, their manuscripts copied by hand, preserving scripture, philosophy, and science. Jarrow's library, home to Bede's ecclesiastical history in 731, held hundreds of scrolls. As his successors noted, Cluny, by the 12th century, boasted over 500 manuscripts, including Aristotle and medical texts. As annals record, you're there, the shelves creaking, the air heavy with leather and ink, a monk's candle casting shadows. St. Gall's 9th century library, detailed in its plan, stored Virgil and Augustine, its parchments guarded like relics. These libraries, built through centuries of labor, were the cloister's mind, their loss unimaginable. Viking raids were early destroyers. In 793, Lindisfarne's library burned, its monks fleeing with salvaged scrolls. As Bede's successors chronicled, you're in that chaos, flames roaring, a monk clutching a psalter, the sea howling beyond. A 875 raid on Jarrow saw manuscripts sunk in a river, their ink bleeding away. As records note, monks hid texts in crypts. A 10th century Bobbio account describes scrolls buried under a chapel. Only some recovered. These raids, relentless through the 9th century, left libraries in ashes, their knowledge slipping into shadow. Fires, accidental or deliberate, were another scourge. A 12th century Cluny chronicle tells of a candle tipping in the scriptorium, destroying dozens of manuscripts, including a rare Plato text. You're there, the air acrid, monks scrambling, the parchments curling in flames. Monte Cassino, in 1197, lost part of its library to a fire sparked by lightning. As annals note, its monks weeping as Cicero's works burned. Some fires were sabotage. A 13th century Fleury record hints at a rival monk setting ablaze. His motive vengeance, his fate exile. These losses, mourned in chronicles, left gaps in history's record. The dissolution of the 1530 under Henry Roman VIII was catastrophic. Royal commissioners, as 1538 inventories show, burned or sold manuscripts, deeming them papist relics. St. Alban's library, rich with chronicles, was scattered some parchments used as kindling, others sold to merchants. As records note, you're in that scriptorium, soldiers tearing pages, a monk hiding a scroll, his heart heavy. Glastonbury's manuscripts, including Arthurian legends, vanished in 1539. As royal reports detail, archaeological digs at Revolx found charred fragments, hinting at lost gospels, their words dust. Monks tried to save their libraries. A 12th century Lindisfarne tale speaks of monks smuggling manuscripts to Ireland during raids, only half returning. As chronicles note, you're on that boat, the waves crashing, the scrolls wrapped in oiled cloth, monks' prayers soft. In 1537, Fountain's Abbey monks hid texts in a vault, discovered later by soldiers. As inventories show, some manuscripts survived a 16th century Durham record notes St. Cuthbert's Gospel saved by a fleeing monk. Its pages now in museums. These acts of defiance, though few, preserved fragments of the cloister's mind. The losses were profound. Texts on medicine, astronomy, and law, copied over centuries, were erased. As 16th century scholars like Erasmus lamented, a 14th century St. Gall manuscript, a rare Euclid, was lost in a flood, its geometry forgotten. As annals note, you're there, the water rising, monks waiting, their scrolls ruined, forbidden texts, Gnostic works. Alchemical notes were burned first. As 1538 Cluniac records show, their secrets deemed heretical. The loss of these libraries dimmed the light of learning. Their absence, a wound felt across centuries. Legends grew from the ashes. A 15th century Monte Cassino tale speaks of a lost library hidden beneath the abbey, its entrance sealed, its texts rumored to hold divine secrets. You're in that cloister, the stones silent, the air heavy with mystery. Archaeological finds at Jarrow uncovered a crypt with manuscript fragments, their words illegible, their stories gone. The lost libraries, from Cluny's shelves to Lindisfarne's ruins, were the cloister's heart. Their destruction, a silent tragedy, their echoes whispering of knowledge unrecovered. As you listen, let the scriptorium's quiet soothe you. Picture a monk salvaging a parchment, its edges charred, his hope fading. The lost libraries held the monastery's wisdom, their shadows enduring in the night. Now, let's turn to the echoes of the monks, where their legacy lingers in ruins and memory. Echoes of the monks in the medieval monastery. From the 8th to the 15th centuries, monks built a world of faith, knowledge, and labor. Their lives etched into the stones of abbeys like Revolks, Fountains, and Glastonbury. By the 16th century, the dissolution silenced their cloisters. Yet their legacy endures in crumbling ruins, preserved manuscripts, and whispers of their devotion. Today, these echoes draw scholars, pilgrims, and wanderers, seeking the monk's lost world. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a ruined abbey, its arches draped in ivy. A faint chant carried on the wind. The echoes of the monks linger in time, their story a quiet song of faith and loss. Let's drift into their legacy, where stones and parchments speak, and every ruin holds a memory. The dissolution of the 1530 under Henry Roman VIII left England's monasteries in ruins, their stones quarried for manors. As 1541 royal inventories note, Revolks's soaring arches, once echoing with psalms, now stand silent in Yorkshire's hills, their beauty haunting. As archaeological reports describe, you're there, the grass soft underfoot, the air cool, a broken column casting shadows. Fountain's Abbey, a Cistercian jewel, lies open to the sky, its cloister worn by rain, Yet its layout, mapped in 12th century plans, still whispers of monastic order. Glastonbury, fabled for Arthur's bones, crumbled by 1539, its ruins a pilgrimage site. As modern records show, manuscripts, the monk's greatest gift, survived in fragments. Jarrow's library, home to Bede's ecclesiastical history in 731, saw scrolls saved by fleeing monks, now in museums like the British Library. As 16th century records note, you're in a quiet gallery, a parchment under glass, its ink faded, Bede's words alive. St. Gall's manuscripts, over 400 strong by the 9th century, preserved Virgil and medical texts, their pages digitized today. As catalog records confirm, Cluny's library, scattered in the 1540, left traces in Parisian archives, their Latin hymns a monk's voice across centuries. Archaeology uncovers the monk's world. Digs at Fountains Abbey in the 19th century found a refectory hearth, its stones blackened by medieval fires. As reports detail, you're there, the earth yielding a shattered cup, its glaze hinting at monastic meals. Lindisfarne's 20th century excavations revealed a crypt, its walls etched with crosses, a refuge from Viking raids. As 793 chronicles hint, Monte Cassino, rebuilt after 1349, yielded 14th century relic fragments, their gold tarnished but intact. As archaeological journals note, these finds, silent for centuries, speak of the monks' daily lives, their faith enduring in stone. The monks' influence shaped culture, their brewing techniques, refined at St. Gall, inspired modern ales. As 9th century recipes show, you're in a cloister garden, the air sharp with malt, a monk stirring a vat, his labor a prayer. Monastic herbals, like those from Sidox, guided medieval medicine, their remedies echoed in modern botany, as 13th century texts confirm. The rule of St. Benedict, written in 530, still guides Benedictine communities, its call to prayer and work alive in monasteries today. As modern charters note, these echoes, subtle but strong, carry the monk's legacy beyond their walls. Yet, the grim shadow of loss remains. The dissolution erased thousands of manuscripts, Glastonbury's Arthurian tales, burned in 1539, are known only through fragments. As royal records lament, you're there, a monk watching flames consume his work, his eyes wet, the cloister empty. Revolx's novices, once learning psalms, vanished into history, their names unrecorded. As Cistercian annals hint, archaeological digs at Jarrow found mass graves from the 1347 Black Death, their bones a silent testament to forgotten monks. These losses, felt in every ruin, give the monk's legacy a mournful weight. Modern pilgrims visit these sites, seeking the monk's spirit. Fountains Abbey, a UNESCO site, draws thousands, its ruins glowing at dusk. As visitor logs note, you're there, the wind whispering through arches, a distant bell tolling, the monk's presence near. Lindisfarne, tide-bound, hosts retreats, its cliffs echoing 8th century chants. As modern records show, scholars study surviving texts, like the Book of Kells from Iona, its colors vivid, its monks' hands remembered. As museum records detail, these echoes from stones to pages keep the cloister alive, its story a bridge across time. The monk's legacy is a paradox, a world lost, yet enduring in fragments. Their ruins, from Revaux's valleys to Glastonbury's fields, stand as monuments to faith, their silence a call to listen. As you drift into sleep, let the abbey's quiet soothe you. Picture a monk's shadow in a ruined cloister, his psalter open, his chant faint. The echoes of the monks, woven in stone and story, linger in the night. Now let's turn to the monastic gardens, where monks toiled in earth and faith, their harvests a quiet miracle. Monastic gardens in the medieval monastery, from the 8th to the 15th centuries. Gardens were the lifeblood of the cloister, yielding food, medicine, and spiritual solace. Monks in abbeys like St. Gall, Sidox, and Revaux toiled in these plots, their hands deep in soil, their prayers mingling with the scent of herbs. These gardens, mapped in meticulous plans, sustained body and soul, yet hid mysteries in their harvests and hardships. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a cloister garden at dawn, dew gleaming on sage, a monk's hoe scraping earth, his breath visible in the chill. The monastic gardens were a labor of faith, their secrets rooted in the earth. Let's drift into their world, where growth met toil, and every plant held a story. The rule of St. Benedict, written in 530, urged monks to labor, and gardens were their proving ground. St. Gall's 9th century plan, a detailed blueprint, shows a garden with 16 beds for vegetables, cabbage, leeks, onions, and herbs like rosemary and dill. As archaeological finds confirm, you're there, the soil soft, the air sharp with mint, a monk's robe damp with dew. Sidox's Cistercian monks, bound to austerity, grew barley and beans, their plots feeding dozens. As 12th century records note, these gardens, enclosed by cloister walls, were sanctuaries, their order mirroring the monks' disciplined lives. Herb gardens were vital for healing. Infirmarians cultivated sage, thyme, and chamomile, their remedies drawn from texts like Cassiodorus Institutions. As 6th century records show, a 13th century Monte Cassino chronicle describes Brother Anselm brewing a fever cure from yarrow, his hands stained green, his patient's moans faint. You're in that herbarium, the air heavy with lavender, the monk's mortar grinding, his prayers soft during the 1347 Black Death. Cluny monks distilled herbs in desperate bids for cures, their failures buried in pit graves. As annals note, these herbs, sacred and practical, were the cloister's medicine, their scent a balm for the weary. Gardens held spiritual meaning. Monks saw parallels between tending plants and nurturing faith. As 12th century Sidox writings suggest, a 14th century Revaux record describes a monk praying among roses, their petals a symbol of divine love, his knees muddy from devotion. You're there, the rose is red, the air still, his psalter open on the grass. Some gardens, like Glastonbury's, grew apple trees, their fruit a reminder of Eden. As 13th century chronicles note, these spaces, quiet and green, were places of meditation, their beauty a path to God. Labor was grueling. Monks dug, weeded, and harvested, their backs bent under summer sun. As 12th century St. Albans records detail, a 13th century Fleury account tells of novices collapsing from heat, their water ration meager, their task unending. You're in that garden, the sun harsh, the hoe heavy, a monk's sweat dripping. Famine tested their skill, a 1,315 drought, noted in Cluniac annals, withered crops, forcing monks to eat roots, their prayers tinged with hunger. These hardships, born in silence, gave the gardens a grim weight, their yield a fragile gift. Mysteries grew in the soil. Some monks cultivated secret herbs, their uses unrecorded. As 14th century Monte Cassino letters hint, a Glastonbury tale speaks of a hidden plot for mandrake, rumored to heal madness, but cursed, its harvest done at midnight. As chronicles whisper, you're there, the moon pale, the monks spade careful, the air thick with secrecy. Archaeological digs at St. Gall found clay pots with unknown seeds, their purpose lost. As reports note, these mysteries, buried in the earth, gave gardens an air of enigma, their secrets guarded by silence. The world beyond shaped the gardens. Pilgrims. As 12th century Santiago de Compostela records show, brought exotic seeds, their gifts planted in monastic beds, their origins forgotten. You're at that gate, a pilgrim offering a pouch, the monk's eyes curious, the seeds small but strange. Viking raids, like the 875 Jarrow attack, destroyed gardens, monks replanting amidst ruin. As Bede's successors note, the 1530's dissolution ended cultivation, fountains, abbeys, plots. Once lush, grew wild. As royal inventories detail, you're there, the garden overgrown, a monk's hoe rusted, the cloister empty. The garden's legacy endures. Modern botanists study medieval herbals, their remedies echoed in pharmaceuticals, as 13th century texts confirm. St. Gall's plan, preserved in Switzerland, guides reconstructions, its beds replanted by scholars. As museum records note, you're in that recreated garden, the herbs fragrant, the monk's labor alive in every leaf. Revolx's ruins, framed by wildflowers, draw visitors, their beauty a testament to monastic care. As UNESCO logs show, the gardens, though lost, whisper of the monk's toil, their harvest a quiet miracle. The monastic gardens were a paradox, sustenance and struggle, faith and mystery. Their beds, from St. Gall's order to Sidox's austerity, fed the cloister, their secrets rooted deep. As you drift into sleep, let the garden's calm soothe you. Picture a monk among herbs, his hands earthy, his prayers soft. The gardens grew more than plants, they grew hope, their echoes lingering in the night. Now let's turn to the pilgrim havens, where monasteries welcomed wanderers. Their gates open but shadowed. Pilgrim havens in the medieval world, from the 8th to the 15th centuries, monasteries were beacons for pilgrims, offering shelter, sustenance, and solace on journeys of faith. Abbeys like Santiago de Compostela, Canterbury, and Cluny opened their gates to weary travelers seeking relics or redemption, their cloisters humming with the footsteps of the devout. Yet these havens bore the weight of hardship, disease, bandits, and the strain of hospitality shadowed their sanctity. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a monastery guest house, its lanterns flickering, a pilgrim's boots caked with mud, the air warm with stew and prayer. The pilgrim havens were acts of charity, their doors open, but their peace fragile. Let's drift into their world, where faith met toil, and every guest carried a story. The Rule of St. Benedict, written in 530, urged monks to welcome strangers as Christ, making monasteries natural refuges. By the 12th century, Santiago de Compostela, Spain's pilgrimage hub, housed thousands yearly, its hospice beds lined with straw. As pilgrim diaries note, you're there, the dormitory crowded, a monk passing bread, the air thick with murmurs. Canterbury, home to St. Thomas Becket's shrine, drew crowds after his 1170 martyrdom, its monks tending pilgrims' blisters. As 13th century chronicles record, Cluny's vast abbey in Burgundy offered meals of barley and wine, its refectory shared with travelers. As Orderic Vitalis wrote in the 1100, pilgrims brought chaos to the cloisters' quiet. A 12th century Malmesbury account describes travelers trampling gardens, their voices drowning compline, earning monks weary sighs. You're in that garden, the herbs crushed, a monk's hoe idle, the pilgrims chatter loud. Some arrived 6 Santiago's 13th century records note monks isolating fevered guests, fearing plague, their prayers fervent. Others, like a 14th century Canterbury pilgrim, caught stealing alms, faced ejection. As chronicles detail, these disruptions, born in charity, tested the monks' vows, their patience a silent offering. Monasteries built for pilgrims' needs. St. Gall's 9th century plan shows a guest house near the gate, its hearth warm, its walls thick against winter. As archaeological finds confirm, you're there, the fire crackling, a monk sweeping, a pilgrim's cloak drying. Siodox's Cistercian monks, austere yet dutiful, ran hospices with herb gardens for remedies. As 12th century records note, Monte Cassino, perched in Italy's hills, offered spring water and rye bread, its monks guiding pilgrims to relics. As 13th century annals describe, these havens, simple but vital, were the cloisters' outreach, their doors a bridge to the world. The roads were perilous, bandits stalked pilgrims. As 12th century Santiago accounts warn, their knives gleaming in forests. A 13th century Glastonbury chronicle tells of a pilgrim robbed, arriving bloodied, monks stitching his wounds by candlelight. You're in that infirmary, the needle steady, the pilgrim's breath shallow, the air heavy with wax. Disease was a graver threat. Pilgrims carried fleas, sparking outbreaks. As 1347 Cluny records note, during the Black Death, monks, risking death, tended the sick, their charity a quiet defiance of fear. Pilgrims left gifts, but also burdens. A 12th century Canterbury record notes offerings, coins, candles, wool piled at Becket's shrine, funding monastic repairs. You're there, the shrine glowing, a monk counting coins, his ledger open, yet pilgrims strained resources. A 13th century Revolk's account laments empty granaries after feeding hundreds, monks fasting to compensate. Some travelers lingered, refusing to leave. As a 14th century Fleury Chronicle describes, their presence fraying monastic order. These tensions, hidden behind hospitality, gave havens a grim edge. Mysteries clung to pilgrims. A 13th century Santiago tale speaks of a cloaked traveler leaving a coded scroll, its meaning lost when he vanished. As monastic records hint, you're at that gate, the scroll crisp, the monk's eyes puzzled, the stranger gone. Some pilgrims, rumored spies or heretics, stirred suspicion. A 12th century Cluniac letter warns of a guest sketching abbey plans, his intent unclear. These enigmas, woven into the cloisters' bustle, gave pilgrim havens an air of secrecy, their guests a riddle. The dissolution of the 1530 ended these havens. Canterbury's shrine was looted in 1538, its pilgrims scattered. As royal inventories note, you're there, the shrine bare, a monk's lantern dim, the air silent. Santiago and Cluny spared England's fate, fated by the 16th century, their hospices empty. As annals record, archaeological digs at fountains, abbey found guest house foundations, their hearths cold, their purpose forgotten. The pilgrim havens, once vibrant, became memories, their charity a whisper in the stones. The havens were a paradox, refuge and strain, faith and risk. Monasteries, from Santiago's trails to Canterbury's spires, embraced pilgrims, their gates open to the weary. As you drift into sleep, let the guest house's warmth soothe you. Picture a monk tending a pilgrim, his lantern steady, his prayer soft. The pilgrim havens sheltered souls, their echoes lingering in the night. Now let's turn to the monk spies, where cloisters hid secrets and whispers carried power. Monk spies in the medieval monastery from the 8th to the 15th centuries. Cloisters were not only places of prayer, but also hubs of secrets, where monks sometimes served as spies for kings, popes, or abbots. Behind the silence of abbeys like Cluny, Monte Cassino, and St. Albans, these monk spies gathered intelligence on political plots, heresies, or rival monasteries, their vows cloaking their cunning. Their work, veiled in faith, carried risks of betrayal and excommunication, its truths hidden in coded letters. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a cloister at dusk, a monk slipping a scroll beneath his robe, his footsteps soft, the air thick with intrigue. The monk spies wove secrets into the cloister's shadows, their whispers a dangerous dance. Let's drift into their world, where faith met deception, and every word held power. Monasteries, with their networks across Europe, were ideal for espionage. Cluny, by the 12th century, linked hundreds of priories, its monks traveling with letters. As Orderic Vitalis noted, "You're there, a monk on a mule, his satchel heavy with coded missives, the road dusty." Kings valued monks' literacy. Charlemagne, in 781, used Jarrow monks to monitor Saxon unrest. As Carolingian charters show, popes too relied on them. A 13th century Monte Cassino letter reveals a monk reporting on a bishop's heresy, his words sealed with wax. These spies, trusted for their robes, moved unseen, their cloisters a perfect cover. Monks spied on rivals within the church. A 12th century Cluniac record hints at a monk sent to Sidox, noting its reforms, his report shaping papal policy. You're in that rival cloister, the spy's eyes sharp, his quill scratching in secret, the air tense. Some watched for heresy. A 14th century St. Alban's chronicle describes Brother Thomas posing as a pilgrim, uncovering a Lollard preacher, his findings sent to Canterbury. These missions, cloaked in piety, guarded orthodoxy, their stakes eternal, as monastic annals note. Political intrigue drew monks deeper. A 13th century Glastonbury letter tells of a monk meeting a royal agent, reporting on Baron's plots against King John. His reward, a cask of wine. You're there, the tavern dim, their whispers low, the monk's hood drawn. In 1154, Revolk's monks, loyal to Henry Roman II, watched Norman nobles, their letters coded in psalm verses. As Cistercian records hint, these acts, balancing loyalty and sin, risked excommunication, their secrecy a heavy vow. Codes and stealth were their tools. Monks used ciphers, like substituting letters with numbers. As 12th century Monte Cassino manuscripts show, you're in that scriptorium, a monk decoding a scroll, his candle flickering, the abbot unaware. Some hid messages in psalters. A 13th century Fleury record notes a monk marking pages with dots, their pattern a message for a pope. Others met in secret. A 14th century Cluniac tale describes monks whispering in a crypt, their words drowned by chance. These methods, born of necessity, gave espionage an air of mystery, its truths locked in silence. The risks were grave. A 12th century St. Gall monk, caught spying for a duke, faced flogging, his robe stripped. As chronicles note, you're in that chapter house, the whips crack faint, the monk's eyes averted, his shame public. Betrayal was deadlier. A 13th century Monte Cassino monk, double-crossing his abbot, vanished, rumored murdered. As letters hint, excommunication loomed. A 14th century Revolk spy, exposed by a rival, was cast out, his soul damned. As Cistercian annals record, these punishments, delivered calmly, left scars, their weight a monk's burden. Mysteries shrouded their work. A 12th century Cluny letter, half burned, speaks of a mission to a king's court, its purpose lost. As archives note, you're there, the parchment crumbling, the monk's intent a riddle, the cloister silent. Some spies were ghosts. A 13th century Lindisfarne tale tells of a monk leaving at night, his destination unknown, his return unmarked. These enigmas, woven into monastic life, gave spies an aura of intrigue, their secrets buried with them. The dissolution of the 1530 ended this shadow world. Cluny's network, weakened by 1540, lost its spies. Their letters burned. As French records note, you're there, a monk shredding a scroll, soldiers nearing, the air heavy with ash. St. Alban's fall in 1539 scattered its monks, their secrets forgotten. As royal inventories show, archaeological digs at fountains, Abbey found a coded psalter, its dots a spy's last act. As reports detail, the monk spies, once vital, faded into history, their whispers a cloister's final echo. The monk spies were a paradox, men of faith, dealers in deceit. Their work, from Cluny's halls to Revolx's crypts, wove intrigue into the cloister, their risks a silent prayer. As you drift into sleep, let the cloister's dusk soothe you. Picture a monk with a hidden scroll, his eyes wary, his steps light. The monk spies guarded secrets, their echoes lingering in the night. Now let's turn to the heresy trials, where monks faced judgment, and faith was tested in shadow. Heresy trials in the medieval monastery, from the 8th to the 15th centuries. The cloister was a bastion of orthodoxy, yet heresy trials pierced its sanctity, casting monks into judgment for beliefs or acts deemed blasphemous. Abbeys like Cluny, St. Albans, and Monte Cassino held these trials, their chapter houses turned courts, where whispers of defiance met stern verdicts. Accusations of heresy, whether for forbidden texts, rebellious preaching, or alchemical pursuits, threatened the church's order, their outcomes etched in monastic silence. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a chapter house, its candles dim, a monk standing accused, his voice low, the air heavy with judgment. The heresy trials tested faith, their shadows lingering in the cloister. Let's drift into their world, where truth met fear, and every verdict carried a cost. Heresy, a grave sin, was any deviation from church doctrine, and monks, as guardians of faith, faced intense scrutiny. A 13th century Cluniac chronicle describes Brother Martin, accused of reading Gnostic texts, his trial held before the abbot. As Orderic Vitalis noted, you're there, the room cold, the monk's eyes fixed, Martin's hands clasped in defense. The church, fearing dissent, issued decrees like the 1215 Fourth Lateran Council, demanding vigilance. As papal bulls record, monasteries, bound to obey, became battlegrounds, their trials rooting out rebellion, their silence masking tension. Trials often stemmed from forbidden knowledge. Monks, copying texts in scriptoriums. Sometimes studied band works Gnostic gospels, pagan philosophy, or alchemical treatises. A 14th century Monte Cassino account tells of Brother Lucius, caught with a coded alchemical scroll, his trial revealing a secret study. As annals note, you're in that scriptorium, the scroll hidden, Lucius breath quick, the abbot's search nearing, his punishment 6 months in a cell silenced his studies. But whispers of his work lingered, as letters hint. Such trials, grim but quiet, guarded the cloister's purity. Heresy could arise from preaching in the 14th century. Lollard ideas calling for church reform seeped into monasteries. A 1382 St. Albans chronicle describes a monk, Brother Thomas, accused of preaching Lollard views to novices. His trial swift, his words condemned. You're in that chapter house, the air thick, Thomas' voice faltering. The abbot's judgment stern, excommunication followed. His name struck from records. As ecclesiastical logs note, these trials, fueled by fear of dissent, tightened the cloister's grip, their verdicts a warning to others. Accusations sometimes masked rivalries. A 13th century Fleury record hints at a monk falsely accused of heresy by a rival. His trial a power play. His defense ignored. You're there, the accused monk's eyes desperate, the accuser's face calm, the room tense. The trial, ending in flogging, left scars, as chronicles detail. Other trials targeted alchemists. A 14th century Cluny monk, experimenting with elixirs, faced charges of sorcery. His crucible smashed. As annals note, these disputes, blending faith and envy, gave trials a grim edge, their justice shadowed by human flaws. Punishments were severe, but calm. The rule of St. Benedict from 530 prescribed floggings or confinement for grave sins. As 13th century Sidox records show, a 12th century Revolx monk, accused of pagan rites, endured lashes, his cries muffled to keep silence. As Cistercian annals note, you're in that courtyard, the whip soft, the monk silent, the air heavy with shame. Solitary cells, often hidden, were grimmer. A 13th century Monte Cassino monk, convicted of heresy, spent a year in darkness, his prayers unanswered. As records detail, excommunication, rare but final, cast monks out, their souls lost, as papal decrees warn. The world beyond shaped trials. The 1209 Albigensian Crusade, targeting Cathar heretics, pressed monasteries to purge dissent. As Cluniac letters show, you're there, a monk reading a papal order, his quill trembling, the cloister tense. The 14th century rise of Wycliffe's ideas spurred trials. St. Albans monks in 1380 questioned brothers for reformist leanings. As chronicles note, the dissolution of the 1530 intensified scrutiny. Glastonbury's monks in 1539 faced heresy charges to justify seizures. As royal inventories record, these trials, driven by politics, left monks vulnerable, their faith a fragile shield. Mysteries lingered in verdicts. A 13th century Cluny letter, half lost, speaks of a trial for a monk's visions, their truth unclear, his fate unrecorded. You're in that archive, the parchment crumbling, the monk's story a riddle, the cloister quiet, archaeological digs at fountains. Abbey found a sealed cell, its walls scratched with prayers, hinting at a heretic's confinement. As reports note, these enigmas, buried in stone and silence, gave trials an air of secrecy, their truths lost to time. The heresy trials were a paradox, quests for truth stained by fear. From Cluny's halls to St. Alban's crypts, they guarded orthodoxy, but broke spirits, their judgments a whisper of justice. As you drift into sleep, let the chapter houses quiet soothe you. Picture a monk before his accusers, his head bowed, his faith tested. The heresy trials shaped the cloister, their echoes lingering in the night. Now, let's turn to the monastic wealth, where gold and greed gleamed in the cloister's shadows. The final vows in the medieval monastery, from the 8th to the 15th centuries. The final vows of monks were a sacred bond, tying them to a life of prayer, labor, and silence. In abbeys like Cluny, Revolks, and Monte Cassino, these vows, poverty, chastity, obedience, marked their end as worldly men. But for some, they also heralded a quieter end, the dissolution of their cloisters, or their own passing within stone walls. As the 1530 brought ruin to England's monasteries, the final vows echoed with loss, their promises tested by time. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a chapel at twilight, a monk kneeling before an altar, his vows whispered, the air heavy with farewell. The final vows were a monk's heart, their end a whisper in the cloister. Let's drift into their world, where faith met closure, and every vow carried eternity. The rule of St. Benedict, written in 530, shaped the vows, demanding monks renounce wealth, flesh, and will. A 12th century Cluniac chronicle describes a novice, Brother Anselm, taking his vows at matins, his voice steady, his tonsure fresh, as candles burned low. You're there, the chapel dim, the monks chanting, Anselm's life reborn in faith. These ceremonies, held in chapter houses, were solemn. Revolks's 13th century records note monks prostrating before the abbot, their worldly clothes burned, as Cistercian rites prescribed. The vows, sealed with a kiss on the altar, bound monks to God, their lives a silent offering. Yet, vows were tested by human frailty. A 13th century Monte Cassino account tells of a monk breaking his vow of poverty, hoarding coins, his confession tearful, his penance a month of bread and water. As annals note, you're in that dormitory, the coins hidden, his hands trembling, the abbot's gaze stern. Chastity faltered too. A 14th century St. Alban's chronicle describes a monk exiled for forbidden love, his vows broken, his name erased. Obedience, hardest of all, sparked rebellions. As earlier tales of Revolks's defiant monks show, punishments a grim reminder of duty. The final vows often preceded a monk's death. Monasteries, like Lindisfarne, prepared brothers for their end with the anointing of the sick. As 12th century records detail, a dying monk, surrounded by chanting brothers, received last rites, his vows reaffirmed, as Glastonbury's 13th century annals describe. You're there, the infirmary still, the monk's breath faint, a psalter open beside him. Some monks, fearing judgment, sought solitude. A 14th century Fleury hermit, once a vowed monk, died in a cave, his prayers etched in stone. As chronicles note, these endings, calm but heavy, wove the vows into eternity. The dissolution of the 1530 shattered the vow's sanctity. In 1539, Glastonbury's monks, forced to renounce their vows, faced execution or exile. As royal inventories record, you're there, the chapel bare, a monk signing his surrender, his eyes downcast, soldiers waiting. Revolx's brothers, pensioned in 1538, wandered as laborers, their vows a memory. As Cistercian records lament, some hid a 1539 Fountains Abbey tale, speaks of a monk fleeing with a relic, his vows intact, his fate unknown. These final acts, defiant or despairing, gave the vows a mournful weight. Mysteries clung to these endings. A 14th century Cluny letter hints at a monk's vow renewed in secret, his deathbed vision of angels unrecorded. As archives note, you're in that cell, the air cold, his whisper faint, the truth lost. Archaeological digs at Jarrow found a monk's grave, a psalter buried with him, its pages sealed. As reports detail, these secrets, tied to the vows, gave the cloister an air of enigma, their silence a final prayer. The world beyond shaped these vows. Viking raids, like the 875 Jarrow attack, forced monks to reaffirm their vows amidst chaos. As Bede's successors note, you're there, a monk clutching his cross, raiders nearing, his vow a shield. The Black Death of 1347 tested obedience. Cluny monks, ordered to bury the dead, upheld their vows at death's edge. As annals record, the 16th century Reformation, spreading beyond England, saw Monte Cassino's monks cling to their vows, their cloisters spared but weakened, as letters show. The legacy of the vows endures. Modern Benedictine communities, following the rule, echo medieval monks, their chants alive in abbeys like Solitude. As records note, you're there, the choir resonant, a monk's vow renewed, the past near. Ruins like Fountains Abbey, visited by thousands, whisper of vows kept in stone. As UNESCO logs show, the final vows, from Cluny's altars to Revolx's hills, were a monk's soul. Their end, a quiet farewell to a world lost. The final vows were a paradox. Eternal promises, broken by time. They bound monks to God, but tethered them to human struggle. Their echoes soft, but enduring. As you drift into sleep, let the chapel's quiet soothe you. Picture a monk at his final vow, his candle steady, his heart open, the vows closed the cloister story. Their whispers lingering in the night. Now let's turn to the silent relics, where sacred bones held mysteries, their power fading in shadow. Silent relics in the medieval monastery, from the 8th to the 15th centuries. Relics were the beating heart of abbeys like Glastonbury, Santiago de Compostela, and Lindisfarne. Their sacred bones and fragments drawing pilgrims and power. These relics, saints' bones, slivers of the true cross, or holy cloth, were enshrined in gold, their miracles whispered in cloisters. Yet their mysteries and losses cast a grim shadow as the dissolution swept through. Many relics vanished, their stories silenced. As you settle into the night's calm, picture a reliquary gleaming in a chapel, its crystal catching candlelight, a monk's prayer soft, the air heavy with awe. The silent relics held divine secrets, their fate a whisper in the stones. Let's drift into their world, where faith met mystery, and every relic told a tale. Relics were sacred treasures, believed to channel God's grace. Santiago de Compostela's shrine, housing St. James' bones, drew thousands by the 12th century, its gold reliquary dazzling as pilgrim diaries note. You're there, the cathedral warm, pilgrims kneeling, a monk polishing crystal. Glastonbury claimed Arthur's bones, its 1191 discovery boosting its fame as chronicles record. Lindisfarne's St. Cuthbert, his body uncorrupted, lay in a silver casket, its miracles logged in 9th century annals by Bede's successors. These relics, revered and guarded, made monasteries spiritual hubs, their power a magnet for faith. Monks curated relics with care. A 12th century Cluny chronicle describes monks crafting reliquaries, their gold etched with angels. As Orderic Vitalis noted, you're in that workshop, the hammer soft, the monk's hands steady, the air thick with incense. Relics needed protection. Monte Cassino's 13th century records tell of monks hiding a saint's finger during a raid, its casket buried in a crypt. Yet, some relics sparked doubt. A 14th century St. Alban's account notes a monk questioning a relic's authenticity, his whispers silenced by the abbot, as chronicles detail. Miracles fueled relic worship. A 12th century Canterbury record tells of a blind pilgrim healed at Becket's shrine, his sight restored. Monks chanting in awe. You're there, the shrine glowing, the pilgrim's cry faint, the air alive with faith. Lindisfarne's 13th century annals claim St. Cuthbert's relics calmed storms, saving ships, their power unquestioned. Yet failures darken the tales. A 14th century Fleury chronicle notes a relic failing to heal, its pilgrims leaving in despair, monks praying for forgiveness. These stories, blending hope and loss, gave relics their mystique. Theft and forgery were grim realities. A 13th century Revolk's account describes a rival abbey stealing a saint's tooth, its theft sparking a feud. As Cistercian records note, you're in that cloister, the reliquary empty, monks' voices tense, the thief gone. Forged relics surfaced. A 12th century, Cluny letter warns of fake bones sold to pilgrims, their gold pocketed by rogue monks. These betrayals, hidden in sacred halls, cast shadows over the relic's sanctity, their trust fragile. The dissolution of the 1,530 devastated relics in 1,538, Canterbury's Becket shrine was smashed, its bones scattered. As royal inventories record, you're there, soldiers prying gold, a monk's hands clenched, the chapel bare, Glastonbury's relics, including Arthur's bones, vanished in 1539. Their fate unknown, as chronicles lament. Some were saved, a 16th century Durham record notes sent Cuthbert's casket smuggled by monks. Now in a cathedral, archaeological digs at Fountains Abbey found relic fragments, their crystal shattered, as reports detail. Mysteries surrounded relics. A 13th century Monte Cassino tale speaks of a glowing relic, its light seen at night, its source a riddle. As annals hint, you're in that chapel, the glow faint, the monk's eyes wide, the secret kept. A 14th century Cluny letter, half burned, mentions a hidden reliquary, its location lost. As archives note, these enigmas, woven into sacred bones, gave relics an air of mystery, their silence a challenge to faith. The world shaped their fate. Viking raids, like the 793 Lindisfarne attack, forced monks to flee with relics. As Bede's successors note, you're there, a monk clutching a casket, the sea roaring, raiders near. The Black Death of 1347 saw relics paraded, monks seeking miracles, their failures mourned. As Cluniac annals record, the Reformation, beyond England, dimmed relics' power. Santiago's shrine, by the 1540, saw fewer pilgrims. As Spanish records show, these relics, once divine, became relics of a fading world. The silent relics were a paradox, sacred yet vulnerable, divine yet doubted. From Santiago's gold to Lindisfarne's crypts, they held the cloister's soul. Their loss, a quiet grief. As you drift into sleep, let the chapel's calm soothe you. Picture a monk guarding a reliquary, its glow soft, his prayer steady. The silent relics whispered of eternity, their echoes lingering in the night.